Hello, church family. Just doing a check-in. I hope you're enjoying the nice, bright weather we've been having, and it's going to be a little rainy over the next few days, but still, at least it's not snow. And you don't have to move rain generally unless you have a wet basement. For that, I'm sorry if you do. But anyway, good to check in with you. I just wanted to give a few updates. First of all, for those of you who have responded to the church survey, thank you. It's been helpful in many ways, and kind of gives me at least, some direction. It's confirmed some things. Still, some things are a little muddy, but we're just trying to figure out, when or if people are going to come back, what has kept people away, and especially when it comes to having overflow in the Family Life Center. Who is comfortable at the moment coming back to worship in the sanctuary, because starting Friday, which means for this coming Sunday, we can now have 50% capacity, and with the numbers that we've been drawing, we're not going to hit 50% anytime soon. I would love to see our church grow during this season, but as we know, hearts are all over the place, and so we love to have you come back with us in the sanctuary to worship. We are still doing the asking that people mask when they are moving around and seated, but again, we want to have you with us, so please come. Return to us. Especially as vaccinations go and things open up, we long to see you. It's been difficult not seeing all of you on Sunday mornings and in between even. And so please let us know how you are. We try to reach out, but life gets bogged down, and we all can kind of get into our little huddles and frustrations and everything. And so there's a lot of things we as a church, both in leadership and as fellow believers and members of the church, need to improve at. And so that's my prayer going forward, is that we can improve in these areas. And so the Family Life Center will be open at minimum through April, especially for those who are more comfortable over there. But we're toying with what May looks like, but we're most likely by that June time being exclusively offering the church sanctuary. But even with that, we will probably, even within the church, offer some location for people that might want a smaller, more distanced setting. So we're wrestling with those things, and the survey has helped with that to a degree. So thank you. And so thinking of Easter, we will have the larger allowance for attendance. And so come with us. Early services at 7:30. A light, the elders. So ask one of the other elders, because they're planning this. I said I put that on their plate for them to organize and set up. A light continental breakfast. We won't be doing the breakfast quiches or breakfast pizzas or eggs and tater tots and bacon or sausage or whatever. It'll be light continental pastries, bagels, stuff like that. After the early service. So there's not really a time for that, but it's when we're done with the early service at 7:30, we will go in and enjoy some small breakfast items together, and then worship at 9:30 as well. And so one thing that wasn't clear, I didn't make a specific question, I kind of put it in the answer possibilities, but not many people answered this. We are looking at whether we continue to have 9:30 worship and then following Sunday school. We're going to keep that at least through our normal, when we switch back to summertime, 9:30, and then take a break from Sunday school. And so we're going to have worship through the summer, at least August, at 9:30, and keep what we've doing. We don't feel the need to make a sharp pivot for just a few more months. But we are looking at the fall. And I've heard two major voices have been, we would like to see things go back to Sunday school first and worship. And that there's a large number of you. And then the other voices are, we'll do whatever. And I like you people. I appreciate that, but at the same time, having a definitive, we like this, we don't like this, is helpful as well. And so I believe, and I'm maybe over speaking, so if I may get in trouble, and that's just the name of the game right now. Most likely in the fall, we'll revert back to what we've always done, with maybe some minor changes in timing, but at minimum, it will probably in the fall go back to Sunday school first and worship later. And so thank you for those of you who have been kind in sharing those thoughts with us, and again, the survey. And so be praying for our church. One thing, we have not been doing a good job. I have not been doing a good job at letting you know when like a new topic for Sunday school has come about. And so I'm going to get better at that, get back into the swing of that. And so after Easter Sunday, through May, Pastor Steve has asked me to come up with what I think should be taught, and kind of I'll be leading this session, the bulk of it, and I'm leaning towards something on evangelism. And I'm not quite sure what that's going to look like, but the topic is evangelism, and I don't want you to have the thought, well, I've already done that. Well, if you have, come back and try it again, because if our church is going to grow, and this is a rebuke to me as well, if our church is going to grow, we need to be sharing our faith. I find, for myself even, I'm more happy to talk about sports, the weather, even politics, and how grumpy I am towards the state of our country or whatever, than I am about Jesus. And so I want us to get into being trained and equipped and ready to share our faith. And what I don't want you to think is it's going to be an evangelism class where I teach you to go knocking on doors or standing in the middle of a crowd on a soapbox, hollering. There's places for stuff like that, but that's not what it's going to be. I'm going to be teaching something to more of a conversational, as you are going in life type of evangelism. So join us through Zoom, in person if you're comfortable, because everybody, whether you're 90 years old or 19 years old or 16 or 11, if you have faith in Jesus Christ, the Church of Jesus Christ, whether it's here at Blessed Hope or beyond, will only grow if we are sharing our faith. And that can be scary. And so let's kind of try to get rid of some of the jitters over it by being trained in it. And all of that, because I'll be honest, I see this a lot. We're much more comfortable talking about the state of our country rather than the state of our faith, and why we believe in our country more than we are believing in Jesus. And that's not meant to be guilt laden, but it's just what I'm observing in my own heart and in conversations that I've had. And so let's get back to a church that is focused on talking about who Jesus is and what he's done for us, and inviting people into that relationship. And so one of the last thing I'd like to share with you is one of the things that has been happening a lot as our world debates things and engages in conversation. A lot of times people will make the statement, well, I heard this. And my initial reaction is, well, I didn't hear that. I actually heard the opposite. And then I go back and I'm like, no, I didn't hear it. I read it here. And a lot of times when we say I heard ... we don't follow it up. I heard it from here, or I heard it from this. And that's happened to me where I can't quite remember where I read something, but oftentimes I'll try to go back and figure out where I got it. But oftentimes we as people will just say, well, I heard this, and then we'll throw it out there like it's a truth claim, like it's a settled thought and discussion. And that's dangerous, because that is borderline, if not full on, gossip. Well, I heard so-and-so. Well, so what? Well, I heard this, or blah, 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 blah. And that's destructive in relationships. But it's just as destructive when we're talking about truth or evidence for different things. And it goes even back to the Garden of Eden, when Satan comes into the garden and he's crafty, and his craftiness is he takes the truth and he twists it. And so he comes to Eve and he says, "Did God really say that you were not to eat from any tree in the garden?" And so he's saying, did you really hear God say that? Is that what you heard? And Eve says, "No, God said that we could eat of any tree but the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We can't even touch it." And she even distorts what she had heard, rather than turning to Adam and say, "All right, what did God say?" We kind of shoot off the hip. "Well, I think he said," or "I heard him say," blah 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 blah. And it can get distorted in what we hear. Oftentimes, people will hear me, even on a Sunday morning or in teaching, say something I didn't intend. And so we have to be careful before we relay the phone information, play the phone game and relay information, that we understand what we heard or we understand what we read. And the reality is, Jesus even tackles this in Matthew 7. In the beginning part of his Sermon on the Mount, he says, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery, but it is also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give a certificate. Again, you have heard it was said. You have heard it was said, an eye for an eye. You have heard it was said." And in each of those instances, they had heard partially right teaching. But Jesus goes on to say, well, it was distorted, or they missed the point, or they missed the heart of the law. And so here, I'm setting the record straight. When we just focus on what we hear, rather than going back and making sure that we understand it and get to the truth and the base level, then things get distorted and people go off stray. And so, they had heard a lot of true things, but it had morphed and changed, and the spirit of God's law had been missed. And so burdens were being set up. And so in our goal to be people of the truth, a people of Christ, may we avoid saying, "I've heard such and such." But may we go in, "Well, I've researched," or "I've looked into," I've gone to the scriptures and wrestled with this. And that takes work, that takes time. It's a lot harder to do that than it is to share a quick meme or a quick hot take on this, that, or the other thing. But may we be a people of truth, because the answers are out there. It takes some time, extra time to do these things. But may we avoid saying, "Well, I heard here," but then we can't say where we've heard it or where we've read it. May we both be willing to share what we've heard, if it's true and it's the right time, and is it helpful, is it useful, is it beneficial. May we be willing to say what we've heard, but also where we've heard it, so that we can be a people of truth. Because the world is lost. They need to know what the truth of the gospel is. And we need to focus on the Lord's wisdom in leading us into that truth and applying it to our lives today. Because that's one of the keys to evangelism and to sharing our faith, is we have the truth. Are we knowledgeable of it? And are we convinced of it? And are we convicted of it and willing to go forth and share with people the truth of Jesus Christ? But if we're just throwing out claims here and there without any care for whether it's true or not, and I'm not saying that we are, but we need to be careful with that. And so may we, instead of saying, "I heard blah, 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 but I've looked into, and this is my understanding," and have a discussion rather than a debate or trying to shut people down. And so I want our church to grow. I want us to come back together. And I'm praying that the Lord would lead us in that. But may we come back together unified, not under politics, not under anything else but Jesus Christ. May we come together to serve Him in whatever, whatever temperature society is at, to worship Him, to love one another, and bring people to know who he is, and that is through the Word of God. And so we love you. Hope to worship with you this Sunday, whether in person or over the interwebs. God bless, and please let us know how we can serve you or pray for you.